Is the new album from The Used, Toxic Positivity, worth a listen? Let's find out. Hey everybody, it's Nick here. Welcome back to the Rock Squad channel and welcome to my rock album review of the new album from The Used. It's called Toxic Positivity. Before we get to it, guys, if you love to rock out as much as we do here on the Rock Squad channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Make sure to like this video. We'd appreciate that. And make sure to share this video online with your friends and fellow rock fans. Toxic Positivity is the 9th studio album from The Used. It's a follow-up to 2020's Heartwork, and I like The Used. I can't say that I've followed the band a lot over the last couple of decades, but I really love that debut album that they released back in 2002. That was a big album for me in my first year of university. You know, songs like The Taste of Ink and Buried Myself Alive and Poetic Tragedy and Blue and Yellow and On My Own. There's actually a lot of really great songs on that record. And then I like the single All That I've Got from In Love and Death that came out in 2004, and I think maybe the only other Used song that I've really enjoyed, or really, not that I've listened to any of their stuff, but the only one that I've really enjoyed over the last couple of decades is a song called Cry from their album Imaginary Enemy, which came out in 2014. But I was very much looking forward to checking out this new album from The Used. I think, Burt McCracken's a great singer and a great frontman, and I have tickets to go see The Used along with Pierce the Veil and Don Broco coming up on June the 2nd. I'm primarily going to that show to see Don Broco, but excited to see The Used and Pierce the Veil as well. So I thought listening to this album would get me, primed to go see The Used live on June the 2nd. And I'm happy to say that this new album, Toxic Positivity, is really solid. Yeah, I think this album is really strong, and it combines a lot of the elements from another album, from another band from the kind of early 2000s, new metal, emo, hardcore era that put out an album recently, and that is Papa Roach and their album Ego Trip, which came out in 2022. And this album combines a lot of the same elements of combining modern rock production, doing things a little bit differently, adding different kinds of elements, a little bit of electronic elements, as well as, obviously the heavy riffs, and then combining that with really catchy melodies and really catchy choruses, which is something that they did really well on Ego Trip from Papa Roach, and that they do on this album from The Used, Toxic Positivity. It's a really strong album. Burt McCracken is in strong form on this record. He sounds great as a vocalist and a frontman. The songwriting on this album is really strong as well, and for someone like me who hasn't listened to a lot of The Used over the last decade or 2 decades, I really enjoyed this listen, and I think it's a really strong record, and like I said, it combines a lot of the different elements that I think a lot of bands are doing right now in modern rock, which I really enjoy, is that modern production, a lot of heavy riffs, a lot of heavy drums, and then some really catchy melodies and vocals, and they do that a lot here on Toxic Positivity. So let's get into it. Let's get into the songs on Toxic Positivity, and the ones that I dug and maybe the ones that I didn't like so much. First off, I gotta say that I'm disappointed that the song People Are Vomit was not on this record. That was a single that The Used released earlier this year, maybe late last year. Anyways, that song People Are Vomit I thought was gonna be on this record. I thought that was a really strong single. So disappointed that it didn't make the track list for Toxic Positivity. I guess they wanted to release a little bit more material and, have some stuff that wasn't already released on this record, which is okay with me, but I was disappointed because I really liked People Are Vomit, and I wish that was maybe the first song that kicked off this record. But let's get into some of the other songs here on Toxic Positivity. So the first song on Toxic Positivity is The Worst I've Ever Been. This song starts off super heavy. I really liked it right from the get-go. Got me right into the vibe of the album and got me excited to listen to the rest of it. I like the lyrics in this song. Don't ask me for no more fucking favors. You gotta love Burt McCracken still channeling that emo angst and that early 2000s vibe, new metal vibe here on this album as well. It's a great opening track to set the scene for Toxic Positivity. Great vocals from Burt, which continues on through the rest of the record, and it's angsty as expected. The lyrical content, the way that the songs are. This is The Used. They're not reinventing the wheel from doing what they've done over the course of their career. They're still going to make heavy kind of emo inspired rock, and that's right from the get-go on this song, Worst I've Ever Been. Then we get into a song called Numb, which is one of the singles released from Toxic Positivity, and this is kind of mid 2000s emo at its best. It actually reminded me a little bit of Bring Me the Horizon. Had a kind of a little bit of that kind of vibe going on, which is cool, because I'm sure Bring Me the Horizon were maybe influenced by The Used, as they were a band, in the mid 2000s. So I thought this was a really great song, great heavy breakdown, and a great single from the band as well. So I thought they did a good job on the song Numb. I thought this was a really great song, and so far this album is really, really strong. Then we get into a song called I Hate Everybody. Great title, something that I can definitely relate to. Probably a lot of people can relate to. We all love everybody, but at some points we can hate everybody as well. It's okay to feel that from time to time, to feel those emotions. Like I said, I love the title. I love the sentiment. It's got cool production on it. Like I said, this album has a lot of modern production on it. Which sets it apart from other rock records. And it depends. If you're a rock fan, sometimes you like things to be a little bit more raw. Sometimes you like things to be a little bit more produced. I think for this type of music, it tends to be a little bit more produced than some other bands. And really, when you're talking about rock music or any type of music in 2023, it's pretty produced. There's lots of things going on. These things are done on computers, so maybe music isn't quite as raw as we hope it would be, but I do really enjoy the modern production. The lyrics on this song, I fell in love, but now I can't even fall asleep. That's a pretty good emo line from Bert on that as well. Has a great chorus on it. And then we got into a song called Pinky Swear, which I think is probably my favorite song from the record. It's super poppy. I love the melody. I love the chorus on this song. There's still some heavy moments on this as well. There's a great balance of those two elements in this album. Like I said, there's the heavy riffs leading into the catchy choruses and the soaring melodies, which is something right up my alley. That's what I'm looking for when I'm listening to rock music, is to have that balance and those dynamics between the two. Not on everything, but definitely for this kind of record, that's the type of thing that I want to hear. So there's lots of riffs, there's lots of screams to enjoy on this record. Bert is still doing a great job as a screamer, so you're still going to get your emo angst out of Bert on this album. And I think that Pinky Swear was definitely one of the favorites for me on Toxic Positivity. One of the other really, really strong tracks on Toxic Positivity is a song called Headspace. This song is kick-ass from the get-go. It's got a great intro on it. It was absolutely crazy. Soaring chorus. Again, those great melodies that I'm looking for. They have it in spades on Headspace, and that definitely is something that's right up my alley. Great vocals from Bert. There are a lot of great vocal moments from Bert McCracken on this record. He really does a great job. He's still sounding as good as ever, and I'm really excited to see him live when I go see him at Echo Beach on June the 2nd. Cherry sounds like Numb Part 2. Like, it sounds very similar to Numb. I think Numb is the better song, but Cherry is still cool. It's got some cool guitar picking on it. Again, a great vocal. And then it's got a heavy as fuck breakdown on it as well, which I thought was really cool. But very similar to Numb in terms of general vibe and tone. I thought Numb was the better song. So Cherry, a little bit of filler track for me on Toxic Positivity. Then we get into Dopamine, which has a very gentle intro, very kind of carnival ride feel to it, which I thought was really cool. They do some really cool things with synths and keyboards and different kinds of sounds on this album, which is good to vary things up, and it stays strong throughout the course of the record. I say it a lot in reviews on this channel that sometimes records tend to start off really strong with a strong first half, and then in the second half they tend to lose you with a lot of filler tracks and maybe songs that aren't quite as strong or as energetic as the ones from the first half. I think this album in general stays pretty balanced and keeps your interest as you keep going. So Dopamine was really cool. It wasn't maybe one of the stronger songs in the album, but production-wise, the flourishes that they put on the song were really cool. And then we got into a song called Dancing with a Brick Wall. And as we get into the later songs on this album, some of them have more of a dancey Franz Ferdinand kind of vibe to them, which I thought was really cool. Still combining the rock elements in there as well, still doing the heavy breakdowns and the riffs, but in between that, varying things up and as to the dynamics of this album, which I thought are really strong. Great vocal. And then, Bert McCracken saying, tear it down, which is very emo of him. So I thought Dancing with a Brick Wall was a really strong track as well. And then we get into the last couple of tracks on Toxic Positivity. It does stay very strong throughout the album. I think there are some strong songs as you get to towards the end. You have a song called Top of the World, which to me was very similar to Dancing with a Brick Wall, the track right before it. Same kind of heavy meets dance, Franz Ferdinand kind of vibe, which was it was an okay song. It wasn't something that blew me away, but I thought Top of the World was okay. House of Sand I thought was really cool. Probably the softest song on the record. It was super cool, super catchy. I love the harmonies on it. I thought it was a really strong song. It's a very sweet song, and the instrumental production that they put on the song, like I said with some of the previous songs, there are some really nice flourishes that they put on some of these tracks on Toxic Positivity. So I thought it was a great song for near the end of the album to keep things interesting and to keep things dynamic. And then we get to the last song on the record, which is also a single that the band has released from the album, and that song is called Giving Up. And I thought this was a really great song too. It's very much the classic Used. This is the kind of song that you want to hear from the Used, and I thought that Giving Up was really cool. It was more electronic, it was very upbeat, and it's a strong closer to this record. Some albums fall off at the end, like I said, but they kept things strong. Finish, with a song that they wanted to release as a single. Like, how many albums do you have where the last song on the record is released as a single? Usually the last song's kind of, it's there maybe to be a little bit more of a closer to the album, to provide a vibe at the end of the album. A lot of albums end with a really softer kind of something a little bit more downbeat than what you would get on the rest of the album. But the Used kept it interesting and really put a really strong single worthy song at the end of the album. So I really thought this was really cool, and I like the sentiment and the lyric in this song as well. Not giving up on me. Most songs are like not giving up on you, but Burt McCracken has said not giving up on me, and I thought Giving Up to close off Toxic Positivity was a really strong track. So overall, I think the new album from the Used, Toxic Positivity, is a really strong effort for a 9th studio album and for a band that a lot of people write off as being like an early 2000s emo, punk, hardcore rock band that doesn't do a lot of new music anymore, at least from, that's kind of the general perspective. I know there are a lot of Used fans out there, for a band that not a lot of people are following in the general mainstream anymore. They're doing a great job, and I thought this was a great record, and I think a lot of rock fans are really going to enjoy Toxic Positivity. It, like I said, reminds me of the new Papa Roach album, Ego Trip, in the way that it balances modern production with big riffs and really cool melodies and soaring choruses and really catchy elements. So I thought that it was a really nice balance of that. Really modern production, so I like to hear that as well. The perfect mix of heavy and melody, like I said. It's funny, like even in my 30s, even in my late 30s, I can still relate to some of the angst and some of the sentiments that Burt is singing about on this record. Maybe even now more so than when I was back in university. It's funny how those things come full circle. So I found this to be a really enjoyable listen and something that took me back to my days when I was back in college. So that was really cool. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of passion on Toxic Positivity. I don't think these guys phoned it in at all. I think they did a lot of great work on this and put their heart and soul into the recording of this record. And it's nice to see the mid 2000s bands like Papa Roach and the Used doing their old school emo sound and continuing on in 2023. I know a lot of people, it depends on certain genres of rock, but a lot of people say, whether it be pop punk or new metal or some of those genres from the late 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of people write them off and say that those genres are really only relevant to their time and that they sound dated if you listen to them now. But I gotta say, a lot of these mid 2000s, early 2000s rock bands are putting out really great music right now. Like Papa Roach, that Ego Trip album is one of my favorite rock albums of the last couple of years for sure. And this new album from the Used, Toxic Positivity, is a really solid effort. And it's just cool to see them making a great record in 2023. So that's how I'm feeling about the new album from the Used, Toxic Positivity. And I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 5. All right, guys, that is it. That is my rock album review for the new album from the Used, Toxic Positivity. Let me know what you thought of the record in the comments below. Make sure to like this video. We'd appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe to us here on the Rock Squad channel. If you love to rock out as much as we do, we talk about all genres of rock here on the Rock Squad channel, whether it be hard rock, metal, indie rock, classic rock, everything in between. We talk about it here on the Rock Squad channel, so make sure to subscribe and don't miss out on future videos. Make sure to follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Rock Squad Pod, and make sure to follow my band. We're called Fools Union. If you love rock like Foo Fighters and Oasis and Jimmy Eat World and Weezer and Smashing Pumpkins, then you're probably going to like us as well. You can check us out online at foolsunion.com. But that is it for me. I will see you guys again here on the channel for the next rock album review. Until then, rock on, everybody.